There are fast players in the NFL, and then there was Tyreek Hill, a human glitch who forced defenses to rewrite the geometry of the field.
The electrifying Hill! What a catch! It is caught for the touchdown! Tyreek Hill!
Coaches stacked coverages, parked safeties 20 yards deep, and begged their corners to survive a foot race they had already lost. None of it worked, because you can't scheme against chaos, and Tyreek Hill was chaos.
And that's juggled, caught.
That was awesome. What a play.
What do you think of when you see Tyreek Hill?
Nothing but speed. I think Tyreek Hill is one of those very, very special athletes.
9 seasons, 2 franchises, a decade of broken angles, and a 2025 season that ended in one brutal step. The question hits harder than ever. How good was Tyreek Hill actually? To understand Tyreek, you have to go back to the beginning, before the highlight plays, before the Super Bowls, before the backflips into the end zone. Long before the NFL ever prepared for him, track coaches were already terrified of him. In high school, he wasn't quick, he wasn't explosive, he wasn't promising. He was a sprinter with world-class numbers, a 10.19 in the 100-meter, a 20.14 in the 200-meter. Times that belong in Olympic trials, not on a high school track. That kind of speed doesn't develop, you're born with it, and Tyreek was.
He is a world-class sprinter. This guy has blazing speed.
But the straight path never belonged to him. He bounced through junior colleges, dealt with serious off-field issues, and nearly lost football completely.
Back in 2014, Hill was a college football player at Oklahoma State. He was arrested for beating his pregnant girlfriend.
Many players disappear after mistakes. Tyreek didn't. He rebuilt his career at West Alabama, not a football factory, not even a draft pipeline school. Scouts didn't know what to do with him. He was too small for running back, too raw for wide receiver, too controversial for most front offices to risk their name on. In the 2016 NFL Draft, he lasted until the 5th round, and then Kansas City took the gamble that changed everything.
With the 165th pick in the 2016 NFL Draft, the Kansas City Chiefs select Tyreek Hill, wide receiver, West Alabama.
From the moment he stepped on an NFL field, the league realized it had no idea how to defend him. Andy Reid didn't wait for Tyreek to learn the offense. He just set him loose. Jet sweeps, reverses, designed touches, return opportunities, deep shots, anything to get that speed into open grass. In Week 12 against Denver, Tyreek scored 3 different ways: rushing, receiving, and returning.
Going right, it's Tyreek Hill. He's got 2 blocks. He's at the 40. He's at the 45, 50, 40-yard line up the 3 kick. 30, 20, 15, 10, 5 into the end zone. Touchdown, Kansas City.
Nobody, and I mean nobody, had ever turned special teams, gadget plays, and deep routes into a single identity like that. But his real evolution began in year 2. This is where the NFL's nightmare started. Because in 2018, Patrick Mahomes took over. A quarterback who could flick a football 70 yards with a wrist snap finally had a receiver who could get under it. The league had never seen anything like this duo. Mahomes didn't care about throwing windows. He didn't care about timing routes. He didn't care about playing safe. He knew that if Tyreek had even half a step, he could chuck the ball into deep space and trust number 10 to arrive exactly when it did. The plays weren't traditional routes, they were GPS coordinates. Defenses tried everything. Press coverage, burned instantly. Off coverage, free releases for 60-yard touchdowns. Brackets, he'd split the seam between 2 defenders who both had inside leverage. Double teams, he turned them into track relays. It didn't matter. Mahomes plus Tyreek was unfair. It wasn't football, it was a glitch, and the numbers reflected it. In 2018, Tyreek put up nearly 1,500 yards and 12 touchdowns. In the playoffs 2 years later, he gave the Chiefs arguably the most important play in franchise history, the legendary wasp call in Super Bowl 54.
They come on the side. He winds up. He throws a long pass. Wide open Hill. 44-yard completion.
That 44-yard bomb didn't just change a game, it reversed the momentum of an entire season. That was Tyreek at his core, the most dangerous player on the field, even when everyone in the stadium knew the ball was going to him. But the part people miss is how much his game evolved. Early in his career, he was labeled as just fast, the typical lazy criticism that analysts throw at players they cannot explain. And then Tyreek became a complete receiver. Route manipulation, body control, foot layering, intermediate separation, contested catches, red zone scoring. Every weakness people assumed he had, he eliminated. That's why by 2020, he had 15 touchdown catches despite being 5'10". He wasn't just a deep threat, he was the scariest offensive weapon football had produced since Randy Moss. So why did the Chiefs let him go? Simple: money, structure, and timing. Tyreek wanted guarantees the Chiefs weren't willing to match. The Dolphins swooped in and gave him a deal that shook the league. 4 years, $120 million, at the time the biggest receiver contract ever.
Tyreek Hill is getting traded to the Miami Dolphins. Hill will get a contract extension that puts him among the highest paid wide receivers in the NFL.
Everyone thought Miami was overpaying. Everyone was wrong. In 2022, Tyreek walked into Miami and immediately broke the franchise receiving record. Not adjusted, not projected, not estimated. He shattered it. And he didn't do it with Mahomes. He did it with Tua Tagovailoa, a quarterback who had been labeled injury-prone, inconsistent, and potentially a draft mistake. Tyreek didn't just elevate the offense, he elevated Tua. His route aggression forced defenders to widen the field by 10 yards on each side. His motion forced linebackers to hesitate. His presence turned Miami's entire offense into an unsolvable geometry problem. After the near 2,000-yard explosion in 2023, every analyst expected regression. Nobody thought Tyreek could keep that level up forever. Not at his size, not at his age, not with how much defensive attention he drew. But 2024 shut everybody up. Instead of slowing down, Tyreek doubled down. Another season of 100-plus receptions. Another season over 1,500 yards. Another year where Miami's entire offense orbit shifted around his gravity. Even in games where he didn't have monster numbers, the Dolphins' film told the real story. Safeties were still bailing out 20 yards deep at the snap. Linebackers were still freezing on every motion. And cornerbacks were still praying for inside help that never arrived. 2024 wasn't some statistical outlier. It was proof that Tyreek's dominance wasn't tied to one quarterback, one scheme, or one magical year. It was who he was, a system-proof weapon whose floor was other receivers' ceiling.
Guess who got voted #1 by his peers in the NFL? Tyreek Mother Trucking Hill, baby!
And then came 2025, the punch in the mouth nobody saw coming. Tyreek entered the new season still playing at an elite level, still the fastest player on the field even at 31, still the heartbeat of Miami's offense. Weeks 1 to 3 looked like the same old nightmare for defenses. Explosive plays, forced double teams, and coverage shells stretched 20 yards deep before the ball even snapped. But in week 4, against the Jets, everything snapped. Early in the second quarter, Tyreek hit a routine dig route. Nothing special, nothing dangerous. He planted, cut inside, and a trailing defender clipped his leg from behind. It buckled instantly. No celebration, no jog off, just Tyreek on the turf, staring at a season that had just died on one step, one play, and the 2025 Dolphins lost their identity. The league didn't lose his speed, it lost the chaos that came with it.
Throws on the run, caught! Tyreek Hill in and out of the end zone. Touchdown, Dolphins!
And this is the brutal truth. The 2025 Dolphins offense completely exposed how much the team depended on him. Miami didn't just lose yards, they lost identity. Waddle couldn't reproduce Tyreek's gravity. Tua's efficiency cratered. Mike McDaniel's motion-heavy scheme could still move the ball, but the threat that stretched defenses past their breaking point was gone. Without Tyreek, the Dolphins were no longer a top-5 offense. They were average. That is not a knock on Miami. That is the ultimate compliment to Tyreek Hill, because when a franchise collapses without you, it tells the league exactly how good you were. So now that the 2025 season ended early for him, what does his legacy look like? Tyreek will never have the career volume of Jerry Rice or Larry Fitzgerald. That's fine. He was never meant to be that. What he does have is one of the greatest peaks a wide receiver has ever produced. And that's not exaggeration, that's fact. Look at his resume. A Super Bowl, multiple All-Pro seasons with 2 different franchises, over 10,000 receiving yards, dozens of touchdowns, the most 40-plus yard plays in the league since the moment he entered it, the most fear factor of any receiver of his generation. He changed how defenses aligned. He changed how offenses used motion. He changed how coordinators built their game plans. He changed Miami, he changed Kansas City, he changed the sport, and he did all of that at 5'10", because his speed wasn't just speed. It was pressure, it was a distortion, it was inevitability. If you want to judge Tyreek by stats alone, sure, there are receivers with more yards, but if you want to judge him by impact, by the fear he created, by the distortion he forced on defensive schemes, then Tyreek Hill is in the rarest tier of wide receivers the league has ever seen.
For the first down, but he lost the ball. Gilman kicked it out, it's still free. Tyreek's got to look out. Tyreek Hill might go. Tyreek Hill was right on the spot, and he's gone for a touchdown.
The tier where numbers are secondary And the primary question becomes, how did this player change the way teams played football? And Tyreek changed everything. His career is not defined by how many seasons he played. It's defined by what he did in the seasons he had. His peak is untouchable. His efficiency is unmatched. His explosiveness is unrivaled. His gravity as a receiver is something defensive coordinators still haven't solved. He didn't just break angles, he broke logic. He made professionals look unprepared. He made safeties pick between giving up a deep bomb or surrendering the entire field underneath. He made coordinators choose between humiliation or death by 1,000 cuts. So how good was Tyreek Hill actually? He wasn't just elite. He wasn't just dominant. He wasn't just the fastest player of his generation. He was the most dangerous wide receiver in the NFL for nearly a decade. A player who forced teams to change their entire defensive identity. A player who elevated 2 franchises. A player whose peak stands shoulder to shoulder with Moss, Megatron, Julio, and the greatest weapons the sport has ever produced. Even with 2025 ending early, even with the injury, even with the questions about longevity, the truth stays the same. You can't measure Tyreek Hill by yards. You measure him by fear. And no receiver of his era created more fear than the Cheetah. If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to subscribe and explore more of our content here on the channel.